Welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we interview the biggest and most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, and capital raisers in the world to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets to help you conquer yourself, your life, your marriage, and use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle so that you can live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of growth and contribution. If what you're after is having it all, if what you desire is becoming the best version you can be across all areas, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, sentimentally, and financially, you've come to the right place. We will bring to you the best of the best real estate entrepreneurs who will give you the insights, knowledge, experience, and skills so that you can go out and crush it financially and across all areas of your life. Grab pencil and paper, sit back, enjoy, and you are welcome to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. Hello, Modern Kings and Queens. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we interview some of the best, biggest, and most successful real estate investors from around the world to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets for you to conquer yourself, your life, your marriage, and use real estate as your wealth creation vehicle so that you can achieve your financial freedom and have a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of growth and contribution. So I'm excited today to connect with another incredible guest. And before I introduce to you this modern king, I just want to ask all of you watching or listening for a favor. I want to ask you that if you get something out of this interview, if you get some type of value, if you get an insight, if you learn a new skill, if you maybe get some information or motivation or even some inspiration to go out, take some action, and keep on moving forward towards your goals, I want to ask you to please share this episode. Share it with someone you think might be interested in real estate. Share it with someone you think this will impact, and just share it and help us spread our message and help other people. And to all of you who take the time to share on Facebook, share on your stories, share on your Instagram, to you, I send a big hug and a big thank you. And today I have Jonny Cattani. He's founder of Cattani Capital Group. He's a former stockbroker turned real estate investor and has been in commercial real estate for over 3 years and an investor for over 6. He currently manages a $650,000 short-term rental fund and specializes in helping busy professionals build wealth through passive income investment opportunities. So, Jonny, I'm excited to have you, man. Thank you very much for being here and taking the time. And you're welcome to the show.
Hey, Alex, thanks so much for having me, man. Great to be here.
Thank you, man. So the first thing that I do with my guests, man, is I ask them to walk us through their real estate investing journey in 75 seconds or less.
Yeah, absolutely. So, pretty unique journey in that, a lot of people kind of start with the wholesaling route and the fix and flip route, and then kind of get to that scale issue, and then, eventually kind of work their way into the multifamily space, right? Typical. I've got a podcast. I've interviewed people. Mine's a little bit different. I started as a stockbroker, like you mentioned in the intro, and was working with high net worth individuals.
Hello, Modern Kings and Queens. At my company, Millionaire Network Automation, we believe in the power of networking. We believe that in real estate, your net worth is your network. This is why we help real estate investors raise capital by connecting them with their ideal investors and helping them build a massive network of their ideal investors in less than 30 days and with only 4 hours of work per week. If you're interested in this, click the link below in the description of this podcast to learn how you can propel your growth with a reliable system that will consistently help you connect with your ideal investors, build trust, add value, get your investors to promote you and put you in front of more of their investor friends, and raise more capital faster and in a much more effortless way so that you can achieve your financial freedom and still have the time and the energy to pour into every single other area of your life. So go watch the training, and you're going to have the opportunity to book a call to talk about how you can get this 100% done for you system implemented in the next 5 days. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later, and enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye.
At the firm, and they all had real estate. We were a custodian for self-directed IRAs, and helped a lot of them use their IRAs to invest in real estate. And I would say probably 80% of them had it in some form or fashion. And so I was like, all right, there's something to this. So I would ask them questions whenever I had them on the phone, whoever, would be willing to chat about it, ask about their portfolio. That turned me on to podcasts, books, which of course led to Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I think a lot of people can kind of have that genesis moment of Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And eventually I identified I wanted to jump into commercial real estate as quickly as I could. Was able to build up my own portfolio in terms of the stock market and identify my skill set in terms of being people to become a capital raiser. So I
For
helped
sure.
a group scale, local group here in Salt Lake City, scale from 70 units to 570 units, apartments. And again, realized that, they had an issue when it came to raising capital. So joined a mastermind for capital raisers called Raise Masters. It's Hunter Thompson's group, and started Cattani Capital Group January of last year of 2022. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Nice. Well, man, I actually want to talk about this very interesting topic, which is why do most real estate investors, like start small, maybe not small, but like most of them, like you said, right, like have to go through all of this journey of maybe fix and flipping and investing in single family, maybe a duplex, maybe a quad or whatever, or maybe they do um how do you call it, wholesaling, right? And then eventually they get this like shift in their mindset, right, to like, oh, I can actually do this at a bigger scale. It's easier, it makes me more money, it allows me to have more impact to people, help them build wealth and all of this. But sometimes that shift, that mindset shift, takes years, right? So what do you think that is?
I honestly, I think it's just our own sort of personal objections, right? Like our own internal battle that we have where we don't believe in ourselves that we could actually go out and buy a 50 unit, 100 unit, 150 unit, or that big self-storage facility or whatever asset, commercial asset you like. I truly think it's just our own uh internal battle that we have to overcome in order to realize that anyone can do this, right? Anyone could go out and do it. Now, that's not to say that if you've never owned investment real estate that you should go out and buy a 150 unit,
Yeah.
but you can if you partner with the right people and you brought enough value to the partnership, you absolutely could, and some people do. But a lot of people start small to kind of get that track record in order to be able to go out and do the bigger deals. But really, all it comes down to is once you decide you're going to graduate, it's just that decision to be like, you know what, I actually do know what I'm doing and I can do this. And you go out and do it. And it's pretty fascinating, that art of the golden deal, first deal, right? Kind of that what they
Hmm.
talk about. You get that first deal done and you realize, holy cow, I can actually do this. And man, I don't know anyone who ever looks back, and it's really awesome.
So you went right into commercial real estate, right? Into
Yeah, so I started passively, right?
Nice.
So pretty common route there. Start on the passive side, kind of figure out how things work, and then once you kind of realize how things work, I identified that, well, I want to bring other people to this, right? Stay on the passive
Yeah.
side, but I want to bring other people, show them what an incredible opportunity they have here, and started raising capital. So still on the passive side, don't have any active opportunities yet, but it's been absolutely incredible. And the education piece and helping new investors, I've been able to get some of my family members involved and starting to see distributions like real cash flow right into their bank account. Didn't have to do anything, mailbox money. And man, it's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I've actually seeing this strength, not strength, this trend amongst a lot of successful real estate investors, that they started to invest actively in real estate by investing passively first, right? Which
Yep.
is great. It's like, I used to sell insurance a long time ago. Well, it wasn't a long time ago, but when I first started in my entrepreneurial career, and they told you that you had to buy yourself a policy, right? So that you could be a product of a product, and so that you can feel how it felt to be on that side. Same thing with real estate, man. Like it must have felt awesome to like receive those passive checks coming in the mail, right? And then that makes you realize, like, holy shit, like I'm like, this is impactful. Like, I didn't expect for this to happen, right? And all of a sudden, now that you are a product of a product, you could easily go and, and try to raise capital from people, because you know how impactful that will be. So yeah, I think, that's a great way to start. And I've actually seen a lot of successful real estate investment companies have that as their capital raising strategy. So they they sell like this idea of learning how to become a passive real estate investor, right? And then they have like a course or something that they actually charge for, right? And then on the back end, they help you become an investor, right? So I've seen it as a trend that can help raise capital. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, it's very, very common in this industry, right? The thing that I love so much about this industry is everybody has the abundance mindset, right? There's plenty to go around. You don't need to think of the capital raiser, sitting next to you as a foe. He's actually a friend, right?
Yeah.
And that allows you, because with that mindset, that allows you to include everyone in your network, right? Other capital raisers, other, active operators and sponsors, whatever they do in the industry. Everyone's a team, right? This is a team game. And when you get to a certain level, what do? You turn around and you teach, and you bring other people along with you to help them understand and learn as well. And, ultimately, if you become a good enough coach, then you've got people to do deals with, right? So it's this whole full cycle opportunity where you're like, okay, learn, right? So I have mentors and part of mastermind groups, right? So right now I'm learning, right? Doing the capital raising. Eventually I'll get to the point where I've got the track record, where I will turn around, help new people in the industry, help them coach, and potentially partner with them on deals. And boom, round and round it goes for people. And you can continue that cycle for years and years. And a lot of people end up just becoming coaches, right? And obviously they still invest and stay on the passive side, but very, very common for people to get, 15, 20 years experience and then just become a coach and really help those in the industry thrive. And that's what I love so much about this industry.
Man, that's so true. And a very important, aspect of what you just said is that the abundance mindset, which is what I believe is required to be successful in not only in real estate, but like in entrepreneurship as a whole. And
Absolutely.
it's actually one of the main limiting beliefs that holds a lot of entrepreneurs back: scarcity, right? Like that is like, why would an entrepreneur not niche down and not focus on to serve a specific group of people? Because of scarcity, right? Because they internally, unconsciously believe that there's not enough, and that's why they're like trying to serve the entire world, right? And then same thing with an investor, like running a real estate investment firm, investing in real estate is almost as running a business. Well, actually, you should treat it exactly as a business, with systems and everything, and with a niche, right? You should have a niche when it comes to raising capital. You should raise capital from your ideal investors. And like, why would someone not pick a niche? Because of scarcity. They think that there's not enough. Or for example, with a digital marketing agency, why would a digital marketing agency work with like chiropractors or I don't know what else, like a bunch of different businesses? It's because of that, man, scarcity. And in my experience, I've nailed all limiting beliefs that there could exist to basically two main ones. Like if you peel back the onion, there's two to the core. At the core, there's like two main limiting beliefs that hold every entrepreneur back. You want to know what there are?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's scarcity, and it's fearing, like having the fear of not being good enough. Those are the two main things that holds people back, man. Have
Absolutely.
and I want to ask you more about real estate, but before I actually already have some questions that I want to ask you, but before we go into that, man, um, what has been like in your journey? Have you came across those two limiting beliefs that haunt, most real estate investors and most entrepreneurs?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, There's a saying, and I wish I could remember it. I would just butcher it, but there's a saying about imposter syndrome and how it's actually a good thing. And every entrepreneur is going to face it, right? It doesn't matter whether you're just starting out, and certainly when you're just starting out is when it can be the most challenging to overcome that, because you get in a room filled with people who have raised millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, or they're active and they have $100 million portfolio, whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and you haven't even done a deal yet, or maybe you've just done something small and you're like, what the hell am I doing in this room? Like, I don't belong here. But the answer is every single one of those people were in your seat. There
Yeah.
was a time when they hadn't raised a single cent, when they hadn't done a single deal.
That's crazy.
And once you realize they're just people too, even the ones who have billions of dollars in their portfolio, you realize that they were there once too, and they battle it too. It doesn't matter, right? If you get $100 million portfolio, well, there's someone who has a $200 million portfolio, and then you get to someone who has $1 billion portfolio, right? So there's always going to be someone a level above you. And so the key is to just remember that, stick to your thesis, stick to your, what you're good at. And like you said, niche down. So many people get stuck on like, oh, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. Yes, but they didn't become a millionaire with 7 streams of income. They became that by dialing in one thing. And then eventually, once you dial in that one thing and you have that foundation, then you use that, and then you go out and you build the other businesses or other streams of income, however it looks. It obviously looks different for different people. And so that's been the biggest key, is not getting that shiny object syndrome and wanting to do, all the things, right? Get good at the one thing, and then you go out and you do the other things.
And talking about those two main limiting beliefs that I've found to be at the core of almost every one of them is you want to know the reason why entrepreneurs have like a shiny object syndrome, or say that they want to do like 5 things at the same time. You want to know?
Yeah.
It's because of that one limiting belief, man, of not being good enough, right? Or
Yeah.
fearing not being good enough. Because I don't know, maybe this happened to you when you were younger, right? But maybe you were at school and you took a test and you got an 80%, and you were like, I didn't even try. Like, I didn't even study, right? Or maybe you were playing like a soccer game or a basketball game, and maybe you lost, and you were like, I didn't even play, full out. So it's okay. Well, that's just trying to protect yourself, your ego, right? You're just trying to protect your ego. So that is, and you're trying to like mask, right, that fear of actually confronting that maybe you're not good enough, right? And that's the same reason why an entrepreneur has like 5 different businesses, because if one of them fails, or it's not making as much money as they would like for the business to be making, well, the excuse that they can use is that, well, it's because I have these other 4, right? But they cannot confront the real issue, which is maybe you're just not good enough to focus on one business and make it grow really, big. And so, yeah, so that's like do you see? So, yeah,
Absolutely.
man.
Yeah.
But
What I would say on that is, so many people, especially in the beginning, they want to be able to do everything on their own. And the irony is that no matter what industry you're going into as an entrepreneur, right? Whether you have some tech idea, real estate, whatever it may be, is you can't do it alone, and you should not do it alone. Like, and so once you get over that limiting belief, like you said, that fear, and you realize that asking for help is actually the strongest thing you can do, and getting help is the strongest thing you can do, man, it is exponential, right? Because once you sort of become vulnerable to that energy of like, okay, I know I can't do this alone because I don't know everything, and I don't want to do it alone because I want to, grow as fast as I can. Boom, off you go, right? Because all of a sudden now it's not about you. You've gotten out of this like selfish, all about
it's
me,
not
I
about
do
your
everything
ego
on my own.
anymore.
Yep, exactly. You kill the ego, and it's crazy what can happen.
It's not about the ego that says I can do it by myself, right? Or you know what, I can do all of this business, all of these 5 different businesses at the same time, right? It's not
Yep.
about that anymore. So, and I'm so passionate about this like 2 very simple topics, man, because if someone, had, sat me down, and they told me that, these are the two things that you're going to be facing with, and don't do them, right? And they had taken the time to like explain to me and everything. I would have honestly saved about 3 years in my journey, man. Like I would have saved 3 years of wanting to do, a bunch of different things, or 3 years jumping from one opportunity to the next, and from one thing to the other, and from one strategy to the other, and 3 years not niching down, right? Like I would have saved at least 3 years if I had known this information. So I'm so passionate about this, and I'm so passionate to think that someone on the other side watching this video or listening to this podcast will be like, boom, it will actually click, and they're gonna be like, I'm gonna stick to this one thing, and I'm actually going to partner up, and I'm actually going to ask for help, and I'll niche down, and I'll just do things how I'm supposed to be doing them, right?
Yep.
So it's exciting to think about that, man. But you mentioned right now that you were able to help a firm go from scale their portfolio from 70 units to over 500 units, right?
Yep.
And by obviously with your superpower, which is like networking and capital raising and just partnering with them and bringing value. So can you walk me through that process and just tell me a little bit more about that story?
Yeah, totally. So it's a group here out of Salt Lake City called Greenline Equity Group. Great guys, two awesome human beings, Tate Seymour and Carl York. They have a huge track record. They've both been in real estate for a long time, fix and flip. Did kind of all the things, right? Started off small,
Yeah.
and basically they invest in Oklahoma City and Columbus. So they had all the relationships, broke relationships. They had nurtured everything already, and were kind of already getting the ball rolling. Basically, what my role was just kind of as that third voice to kind of help facilitate investors. So, helping to organize webinars and put pitch decks together and kind of do some of the organizational things internally that, can be a challenge, right? Like you want to scale quickly and you want to get these deals done, but what people forget is there are a lot of little things and a lot of moving parts that go into this. And, unfortunately what can happen sometimes is you can
Yeah.
get caught up and oh, did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
My camera just decided to take a vacation, but I'm here.
Sweet. Okay. And so what happens sometimes in these little things is investors can fall by the wayside, meaning like, maybe they're reaching out to you on LinkedIn or Facebook, or, emails are coming in, but you're busy talking to brokers or, doing due diligence trips to go look at properties. And so essentially what I was that third person, that investor relations person who could help facilitate, make sure people go into the webinars, make sure they know about the webinars, and all those little things that kind of happen in the background that you don't even really think about. And, as a team, we were able to raise, I think it was almost 13 million total in order to acquire those 500 units. So it was really, really incredible. And like, I mean, I was hooked. I was going on the trips
Yeah.
with them, doing the due diligence, looking at the properties, and it was just incredible to be part of it. And it's just a testament to, it took them a couple years of, really nurturing relationships with brokers. And, they did one deal in Columbus and then did one in Oklahoma City, and that put them on the map in each city. And, they basically, I think when I left, we're at about 62 million in assets under management. So, it goes to show you that it will take you time. It doesn't matter what you want to do. It will take you a couple years to really get the ball rolling. But as long as you continue to do those little things, right? We talked about niching down, even in your skill set, right? Honing in, staying in your lane, focusing on your unique ability. And, you keep going and keep going. You're not going to see, it really pay off in the beginning, right? It's going to take that time. But as long as you keep working at it, boom, next thing you know, you do those deals, and, you obviously, take care of your investors. They're going to take care of you right back, and you're going to get those repeat investors. And that's really how the scaling, is possible.
For sure. So, it's almost like a business, right? Like, how are you able? And my camera froze, man. For my past two podcasts, I don't know why it's been deciding to take a vacation, but it's all good. I'm here. And it's almost like a business where I don't know if you've came across some of Alex Ramos's content, but basically the best way to like scale your business to like 10 million and beyond, right? $10 million per year, $50 million per year, whatever, is to focus on your product, right? Like just get it to sell, get it to the point where you know that people actually want it. There's product market fit. And then once you're there, just go, stop those sales. Well, not stop those sales, but instead of going all in sales, just like slow down, maintain the sales, and focus on really fixing your product, right? Giving the customer an excellent experience, getting the product to actually work and deliver the results that you're promising, because that's how you're going to get repeat customers, and that's how you're going to get your customers to refer you to other customers. Same thing here in real estate, right? If you find really good properties and you analyze them well and you underwrite them well, right? And during the time that you were learning how to do that, you build a network of people who were interested in investing. And then once you get them to invest the first time and you actually do a really good job on everything else and you give them really, really good returns, they're going to invest again, right? And they're going to tell their friends, like, look, this is what I'm doing to receive passive checks on my mail every single month. So you should, think about doing it yourself. So you're definitely right, man. And one thing that I want to ask about, you said right now that, what you were focused on, what you worked on was like what nobody sees, right? Like on the back end, like investor relations and basically running the capital raising machine, right? So can you tell me like what a capital raising machine looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's there's some moving parts, especially in the beginning, right? There's a lot and it can be overwhelming, but I'll kind of point out probably, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 main keys. So the first thing is, obviously having a network, right? And putting yourself out there, positioning yourself as the expert, right? In this case, obviously real estate. And, it starts with your friends and family. That's where pretty much everyone starts with their capital raises. And so you want to start positioning yourself, with your friends and family as the expert. The next thing is you need to have some type of CRM or something to keep them organized, right? And, for me, I use Active Campaign. It's very real estate friendly. And, have them organized, but you need to stay top of mind. So this is, email automations, right? So some sort of lead magnet that gets their attention, and then, a good enough campaign to keep them drawn in, right? So, for me, it's a monthly newsletter, right? So when you first start out, there's kind of a series you go through. Uh, and it starts with value add. Always add value, add as much value as you possibly can. I don't even ask for a phone call or to schedule a call until like the fifth or sixth email in any of my automations, because I want them to feel like I've earned the right to ask them.
Mm,
Too many people get caught up asking on the first email. Boom, someone is added to your list. Hey, let's schedule a call right now. It's just really not going to work that often. You're really not going to see a good conversion rate. Whereas when you nurture people and give them value, right? Case studies. Hey, here's this blog I wrote. Check out this video. Check out this podcast that I did, or this podcast that I was on, if you don't have your own, right? And you're just giving all this value. Then when you go to ask for the call, you've earned that right, because people are like, oh, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. You position yourself as the expert. And then from there, it's staying on top of it, right? So making sure, when people do get to a certain stage, that you are asking, right? Getting those calls scheduled, following up, right? So you get on there. And, one thing that's super important is, you may talk to investors, and I'm starting to take on investors who have done more investing than I have, right? They're passive investors and they're interested in a deal that I have, but they've done more than I have. Okay, how do you handle this? Well, one, you need to control the call right from the start. Hey, Mr. Investor, we've got 20 minutes. After this, I've got another investor call I've got to get to. So I'm going to stop us right at 20 minutes. Here's how the call is going to go. I'm going to ask you about you, then I'm going to tell you about me, and then we'll talk about, and you're really not even talking about a deal yet, right? You're just really getting to know them. Are you accredited? What have you done in the past? Kind of those things. And then when you get to your track record, you have to be honest, right? And it's so important to stay honest with your investors on the call of like, hey, this is my track record. I haven't done a full cycle deal yet. This is how much money I've raised. This is my plan moving forward. This is whose group I'm with and partners that I've done, right? Kind of getting that, building that credibility. And then if there's ever a question, and this is one of the most powerful things to learn too, is the I don't know.
Yeah.
Being upfront and saying, hey, I don't know, but I'm going to go get the answer to your question. Boom, that call, you write down that question or however you keep track. For me, I keep track in my CRM. And then boom, I'm going and getting the answer to that question. And then I'm getting them on the phone or sending a follow-up email with the answer as quickly as possible. And you'll be amazed at how far that goes, despite your, if you're newer to the industry, despite your kind of lack of track record, because you've admitted you didn't know the answer. You were honest and upfront and transparent the whole time. And they may not invest with you right away, but they're going to stay on your list and they're going to pay attention because you were honest and upfront and you took care of them and got back in a timely manner.
For sure, man. One thing that I like to say is that honesty builds trust.
Yes.
And trust is a key fundamental thing that you need if you want someone to invest in any of your deals, right?
Yep.
So you mentioned a bunch of things that, you need to have, one of them being like a CRM, Active Campaign. I also use Active Campaign. I really like it as well. But the other thing that you mentioned is, I don't know. I don't know if you mentioned it or I'm just like, wanting to ask about it. But I think you have a podcast, right?
Yes.
It's called the Cash Flow Chronicles. You have almost 300 episodes. So tell me about that, man.
Yeah, so I actually started it out as a daily podcast. So it was Monday through Friday for a whole year. April 11th was the 1 year mark. And starting this month, so I was recording this beginning of May. Starting in May, I dropped the cadence down to 3 days a week. But my reasoning behind starting out on a daily was because I was new, I had time on my side, right? I burned the ships. I was all in for this.
Yeah.
A lot of people do it on the side, have a job, W-2 job. So I don't typically point people towards a daily. If you have a family, you're married and a W-2, I don't really advise the daily podcast because you will burn yourself out. But for me, I'm not married, don't have kids, and I had time on my side. So for me, it was all about flattening my learning curve. So, essentially at this point now, I've done what would take a weekly podcast basically 5 years to do. And so that's flattened my learning curve. It's grown my network exponentially. All those people end up on my list in some form or fashion. They always want to help however they can. Hey, can I introduce you to someone? Is there someone in my network you want to be introduced to? And the thing that I love so much about a podcast is it's a way to add value right from the start. So let's say you meet with someone, right, who is doing something that you want to do or, knows someone. Hey, it'd be really awesome if you introduced me to this person, or if, I could jump on to this deal, whatever it is. In return, I've got a podcast. I'd love to have you on. I've got a lot of passive investors who listen, and I would love for you to come on as a guest and highlight yourself and position yourself, as an expert. And the thing that I tell people about podcasts is when you're the host, you're not really going to get people to your own list, right? Certainly people are going to find you as your podcast grows, and eventually it will kind of do that. But in the beginning, your goal is to highlight your guest as the expert and help bring people to them. So this is what I tell people. if you want to build credibility in the industry amongst your peers, meaning other investors or syndicators, whatever it is, that's what a host role does for you. If you want to go out and get people to your list, then you go be a guest, right? So it really depends what you're trying to do. But for me, I wanted to position myself in the industry, build my credibility, and flatten my learning curve. And it has done all of that. And the knowledge that I have is just, obviously continues to grow. I'm always a student. I'm by no means an actual expert, but it's really allowed me to position myself like that. And now people reach out to me, and now I'm to the point now where people reach out to me to come on the podcast, and I almost have to, my assistant and I have a screening process now, and
For
we
sure.
actually can kind of pick and choose. So it's been really incredible.
Nice. So your podcast has allowed you to, flatten your learning curve or learn more because you're probably talking to experts all the time.
Yep.
It's helped you like position yourself. And then another really interesting thing that you mentioned is that it's helped you build a massive network. So what do you mean by that, man? And how did a podcast allow you to do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, at its most basic form, to answer your question, would be just, you get on a podcast, and all of a sudden you get to know someone, right? Like you're
Yeah.
interviewing them, you learn about them. And then at the end of the call, in the beginning, you kind of are getting a little bit of that awkwardness out of the way, getting to know someone. Sometimes you have an instant connection, and, it's just instant chemistry, but not always. But, by honing in your skill of hosting, you're able to kind of learn different personalities, and be able to read people, and be able to kind of lead the podcast according to their personality. And then what that does at the end is now you've got someone who's like, I mean, the best compliment I can get is a guest being like, that was really awesome, you're a great host, right? And now at its basic form, we become friends on LinkedIn, right? Connect on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Now you've got a connection for life, right?
Yeah.
Because they see you on LinkedIn, you see them on LinkedIn, you're commenting on their stuff. Maybe, once their episode comes out, they share it with their network. Now you've got other people coming to you. And, once you get to the point of having these big names on your podcast who have these big networks, and they share it with their network, email it out to their list. I mean, that's almost unquantifiable what that can do for you in terms of growing your network and getting you in touch with the right people.
Exactly. And then and then having a podcast, man, can help you connect with people that you would have never thought you could connect with, right?
Absolutely.
And then with you can leverage that connection that you made with that person to make other connections, right? Because now you can all of a sudden go to someone in their network and be like, hey, I see you're connected with him. I've also connected with him on my podcast. Would like to be on as well, right? And all of a sudden you could connect with everyone. Like I think a focused and intentional podcast is one of the best networking tools out there. Right? You don't gotta travel. You don't have to go to networking events. You don't have to get on the car or on an airplane and travel for hours. And you could do it from the comfort of your home or office. Right. So again, my video stopped working, man. But you can still hear me, right?
Yes. Yep.
I don't know what's happening with my camera, but I'm here. So and yeah, so we actually have this thing. So this podcast, man, will probably be ready in about a week. It takes us like 1 week to process the podcast, get it on Apple, on Google, Spotify, on YouTube, get it edited out, produce a bunch of clips, reels, post, and all of that. And the way we were able to accomplish that is with something we called the attention multiplication machine, right? And all of that content we put it in a folder, and then we send it to our guest, and then our
Yep.
guest ends up posting all of our content, which is crazy, right? And yeah,
It's fascinating, right? Kind of that symbiotic relationship where, like I said, in the beginning when I first started talking about it, is that instant value add. You get people on here who've been in the industry for 20 years, and you can't hold a candle to their resume yet, but because you have the podcast, you're able to give them something like, hey, I know that you're way ahead of me, but I want to learn about that. How did you do it? Right? Come on my podcast. Let's learn this. you learn, right? I mean, the knowledge I've gained just from interviewing people is crazy. And two, they get to come on, you highlight them as the expert. And obviously, people love to talk about what they've done and how they've done it, right? We talked about the coaching and all of that, right? So they get to teach your listeners what they've done and how they've done it. Oh, and by the way, when it comes out and you give them good quality content to share, boom, now it's shared with their network, and more people see the podcast. Maybe they want to go download that specific episode. Maybe they have people like you said in their network that would be a great guest. So now all of a sudden you're getting referrals. And, my list now, like my investor list is like over 400 people just in, basically 15 months, all from a podcast, really. I've
Yeah.
done raises and obviously, had green light and all of that, but I didn't take any of their investors with me.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
that's just really what shows you what a podcast can do. When you really put the time and effort into it to make it good.
Yeah, man. So let's shift gears a little bit because I lost track of time, and we do have a couple of minutes. And I end my podcast with asking a couple of questions to my guest, and I do want to have time to ask those questions that I ask. But before I go into that, man. So you invest into multifamily real estate investing, right? Multifamily real estate assets, right?
Right.
And you have a fund. So the way that the way that you're able to fund these deals, the structure that you've chosen to use is a fund. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. In this case, we actually did a short-term rental portfolio, but yes, I have invested in multifamily as well.
All right. Um, so talk to me about this, man. Talk to me about
Yeah.
your fund and everything, and some of the deals that you got going on. And I don't know if you are able to share, right? And for anyone who may like to get involved, but yeah, talk to me a little bit about your short-term rental deals portfolio and the fund that you're running.
Totally. So, for those that aren't familiar, it's a fund-to-fund model, right? So basically, what you do is you create a separate LLC, right? It's got its own PPM and operating agreement, and basically, you're the manager of the fund. In this case, I have a couple partners as well. So together, we started this LLC, and we bring our investors in, pull all of our money together. And so I'll just talk about the deal specifically. So the group is called TechVestor. Uh, in this fund, which they called Fund One, there's about 83 short-term rentals spread throughout the country in, the top markets. They're very unique stays, right? So they focus on that very high premium market of like, going to Orlando and staying in a house that has a room that's got like a castle, or race cars, and right, very, very unique stays. In one of the houses in Scottsdale, it's all pink, right? Bachelorette
Hmm.
parties galore, right? So very unique premium stays. And essentially what they have is they have different share classes. So if you were to go directly to them, the minimum would be 25,000, and you would get an 8% preferred return and then a 50-50 split above the return. Well, what we were able to do with the fund is, we raised 650,000, and then because of that, we're able to go into the share class that's at the 500K mark, right? Which most people can't do on their own. But because we're able to pull all of our money together, we show on their sheet as basically one single investor, right? The LLC shows as one single investor at the 500K mark, which in return gives us a 9% preferred return and a 60-40 split. So you're basically pulling your money together in order to get into the higher share classes, which obviously give you better return economics. And, there's some nuances to the fund, of course. In this case, it was a 506B, so we were able to bring on some non-accredited investors. They've now switched it to 506C, accredited investors only. But, I was able to get new investors. I had, like I said, some friends and family that had never invested before. So it was very appealing at that 25K minimum because if you're familiar with the industry, pretty common to see 50 to 100,000 as the minimum, which can be
Yeah.
very, it can be very intimidating, to, even if you are a high income earner. I mean, sending a $50,000 wire is, it even makes me nervous. And I've been investing for 6 years. And so it was nice to have that kind of smaller kind of proof of concept opportunity. And, I'm already getting calls from the investors that I brought that are like, hey man, I'm ready to do another deal. What have you got on the table? So, what was really awesome is I had brought other deals to my investors, and nothing really clicked. And so it's important to stay open-minded in the beginning, uh, to really figure out what it is your investors want and what they're looking for, which is why when you have investor phone calls, it's important to listen, know what they're looking for, right? If someone's looking for cash flow, you're not going to send them a development deal, right?
Yeah.
Because there's going to be no cash flow. So it's important to listen and understand what they want. And then once you know what they want, then you go out and find the deal. I tell people to always be raising. It's easier to raise capital when you don't have a deal versus when you're, got a deal and you're trying to get across the finish line and you're hurrying, and there's desperation, and investors can sense that. So this opportunity was really awesome. What's really great about it is there was nobody in the short-term rental space that was really building an institutional portfolio. So what's awesome is the exit plan for this fund, for this portfolio, is to an institution, right? Private equity, sell the whole portfolio as a whole. And, because when institutions want to get involved in something, they're not going to go out and buy 1 or 5 or 10, uh, short-term rentals. They want 80 to 100 short-term rentals that's
Hmm.
already cash flowing, that's already proven to have a return. And that's what TechVestor has done. And they're one of the first into the space. So it really presented an incredible opportunity.
So man, so I know that you have I think you have a webinar, or yeah, I think it's a webinar, right? The 5 easy steps to a lifestyle by design, right? So you
Yep.
actually teach people how to use how about the power of real estate to be able to build wealth. If anyone wants to learn about that, where can they go?
Yeah. So you can go, same name as my podcast, thecashflowchronicles.com. Go to thecashflowchronicles.com. There's a little intro video there, and then you'll be put on a list to receive the 5 steps to live a lifestyle by design. This is tailored towards new investors. So if you're brand new, want to learn about passive investing, you're already a high income earner, and want to learn how to put that money to work. And my big thing is, listen, there's people out there who will cut a check and they have no idea why. They just see, a 2x multiple, and they just see these numbers. Are like, yeah, I'm in. And that's fine. That's great. If that's how you do it, I'm more power to you. But for me, I really want to focus on helping people understand why they're investing, why they want to do it, and what they're investing in. So the focus of this series is really to learn your why and learn and understand your investment thesis and your risk tolerance. Not everybody has the same risk tolerance, right? Some people love really, really conservative deals, not going to pay you a lot, but you're going to preserve your capital, right? You
Yeah.
know, and other people love super speculative deals with super high risk, but there's a lot of return that comes with it. This video series is going to help you identify which bucket you fit into and why that bucket fits you.
Awesome. So we're actually not gonna have time for the the questions that I asked, man. But it's all cool. I lost track of time with my new setup and walking and all of this. But um, if people want to learn more about you, Johnny, where could they get in contact with you, man? Where could they get? Where can they listen to your podcast, get in contact with you, watch more of your content, and just connect, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. So, uh, few ways. One, I'm on social media at Jonny Cattani. Johnny would know JonnyCattani. That's all my social media handles. Instagram, and I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook. Pretty active on TikTok as well, trying to get a little bit better at TikTok. Since I know there's people there. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and then you can email me directly, Jonathan@CattaniCapitalGroup.com. Reach out to me. I love talking to people. I mean, obviously, as you've seen, we've gone over time. I could talk about this forever. So if you ever have any questions, please reach out. And if you do sign up for that list for the video series, you'll automatically be added to my list. So you'll get my newsletters and all of the content that I send out to my email list, including obviously new investment opportunities.
Awesome. Well, Jonny, thank you very much, man. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure talking to you. And that's it. I'll see you later. Okay.
Likewise. Appreciate it very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Modern Real Estate Investor Podcast. We want you to know that we love and appreciate you, and we're super grateful about being part of your journey of becoming a successful real estate entrepreneur and having it all. Please share this episode with a friend who you think will be impacted positively. Send it to someone who you know is interested in real estate and dreams of having it all and being the best they can be across all areas. And if you thought this episode was really valuable, share it on your social media as a post or a story. We have a special gift for all of those who contribute to the Modern Kings and Queens movement. So for those of you who decided to share this episode and help us spread our message, send me a message letting me know on any social media platform at Alex Ramirez, the Modern King. I have a special surprise for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.